Hello, fellow NASA HUNCH teachers and students. My name is Miss Brittany Koger, and I'm going to be walking you through the investigation station for our weight and measurement for our insect Nano Lab, or our insect growth chamber. All right, so you should have already watched the introduction video, seen kind of what this project is about. We are going to be growing certain insects in space for 30 days. All right, so we're going to be designing a container. A nano lab is what we call those that will keep our insects in, and we want them to survive in zero gravity and in space. So we've got to do some research on insects and when insects are going to be beneficial to our space exploration. So first, let's talk about why we're talking about insects before we get into weighing and measuring different insects. So why would NASA be interested in sending insects into space? Think about the space that we have on the International Space Station, on our spaceships that go up into space, our rockets and things that go into space. There's not a lot of room up there. And it costs a lot of money to go up into space and to send things up into space. It costs $1.2 million per pound of material. So it's very hard to keep sending things up to the International Space Station. So we want them to be able to grow things naturally in space. And we want them to be able to grow food. And we need protein. So not just vegetables and fruits, we need protein. Well, we can't have cows and pigs and chickens and fish in space. So we're looking at bugs. And we're looking at eating bugs and using bugs for food. And that is what this whole project is kind of about, is learning how to grow these bugs that would be beneficial to our astronauts in space. In a later station, me and Glenn are going to get together and show you guys a bug tasting, and we're going to do a little bug tasting, show you some edible bugs, and you kind of get to judge our facial expressions there on how they taste. And I know here in America, we snarl our nose and we're like, that's gross. But throughout the world, bugs are delicacies. All kinds of countries eat bugs. Bugs are on their menu as a regular food source. So just keep that in mind. Like in South America, they eat a lot of scorpions. Africa, they eat ants. They eat grubworms. They eat crickets. Throughout the world, crickets are a delicacy and eaten. Escargot in France, that's the snails. So we got to start thinking about food and how we're going to produce food in space. So we're going to be looking at insects and different types of insects today, and we're going to be weighing and measuring them. So here are the things that you are going to need for this station. Of course, you are going to need a ruler, all right? And you can go off on measurement lessons, have them go off measuring things throughout your room, however you see fit to do this. This is meant to be taught at your leisure. But there is a slide that shows you an up close of a ruler, and it breaks the ruler down into pieces. There are 16 little marks between 0 and 1, pieces of a whole, which is a fraction. So you can go off on a fraction lesson and talk about fractions. We talked about equivalent fractions. Yardsticks have 8 marks instead of 16. Is 16 and 8 equivalent to each other? Yes. So go off into equivalent fractions, how to simplify fractions, how to convert measurements if you use millimeters, how to convert that to inches, inches to millimeters, and all of that. So go into a weight and measurement lesson. So you're going to need a ruler and measuring tool, and you're going to need a scale of some kind, a weight tool. So this scale is a digital scale. I got it at Amazon. I think it was $12. It's very cheap. It does ounces, grams, pounds, and all that. I think it goes up to like 15 pounds. So this is a really good scale to have. If you don't have one of these, you can use a push scale, but you're not going to get a good reading on one of these because these bugs are super lightweight. So I would go with the digital scale, and I would go to grams. That's what we're going to do today. So I talked to my students about how many grams are in an ounce, how many ounces are in a pound, and we went into those conversions and measurements. All right, let me get that set to grams. All right, because grams is a smaller amount. All right, you're not looking at sending winged insects into space yet. So nothing with wings, and I do have some examples of some winged bugs. So I'm kind of a kooky teacher. I have a class pet, which is a turtle, and I have to feed her bugs. So I am not afraid of bugs. Bugs do not scare me. Spiders kind of scare me, and scorpions kind of scare me, but normal bugs don't scare me. I have dried dead bugs in my room. This was a Luna moth that I found on a hike with my husband, and I just put it in some tape to preserve it, and it goes in my science station, and the students get to look at it with some magnifying glasses and underneath a microscope, and they can look at these. So I had I had a couple of winged, beautiful moth and butterflies that they could see. I also have a little pollinator here that I found dead outside. Here's a carpenter bee. So I had him as well. And you can weigh and measure those, but we're not going to be looking at sending winged insects into space. So we're going to be looking more at like crickets, mealworms, scorpions, even cockroaches. I know that sounds disgusting, but cockroaches, there's lots of countries that eat cockroaches and grub worms. If you are in the United States right now, you have been going through the dreaded cicada time, and we have lots of cicadas out. So I walked around outside and got some different dried dead bugs. I had some scorpions that come in my house, and I've got those, and I'm going to show you those in a moment. I went to my pet store and got a bunch of crickets, and this is going to be about the size of our Nano Lab, so this is a very good example of a container. And this is 24 crickets in there, and look how much space they have. And when she has crickets over there at the pet store, she's got like cardboard in there with them, and they survive off of like a potato. They don't have to have water. They can just have a piece of potato in there, and they eat the potato, and they can live for several days on just potatoes. And they pull the water out of the potato, so that's pretty cool. So I got those, and I also have some giant mealworms. I got the giant ones because my turtle really likes the giant mealworms. And in here, there are 35 of those giant mealworms. And they literally live in this container with that sawdust-like material in there. And there are 35 of them, and they can be refrigerated, so they can be cooled, and they do not have to have as much water. So they survive on what's in this little container. So that's pretty neat to talk with your pet store and go see those. But I'll show you the bugs that I have. And like I said, I just went around walking around outside, found dead bugs. You can order dried dead bugs in resin from Amazon, and you can have them measure that. You can even print out pictures of bugs that are actual size pictures of bugs. Go to Google and Google it. Or even just go find some little fake bugs. Just getting them weighing and measuring is our biggest thing here. Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly how we did this. I'm going to try to get this camera to focus down on my hands in just a moment and show you, but I'm going to show you my bugs first. So, you know, the cicadas, they come out, and they come out as this little grub. They're in the ground as a grub. They come out in these little crunchy bugs, which mine just fell apart. They come out as these little crunchy bugs, and I love to, when I was a kid, I used to go around and squish these and crunch these everywhere. They come out in these little crunchy bugs, and then they come out as a cicada, and we have several different sizes of cicadas. So there was a small cicada. I have a medium-sized cicada and a large cicada. And all those were just around. I have my mealworms, and I have them in tape as well. I have cricket. And y'all are going to laugh at me. My Midwest people are going to laugh at my scorpions. We do have scorpions here in Georgia, and scorpions are a delicacy. Like I said, especially in like North or South America, they eat a lot of scorpions. And like I said, y'all are going to laugh at my scorpions. If you're in the Midwest and you're out west, my little itty bitty scorpion here is not going to scare you at all, but these little guys apparently are very tasty. I don't know, but I have them in tape, and I let my students weigh and measure those as well. And then I have some cockroaches, because like I said, cockroaches are actually a delicacy, and all of these are just dead, dried bugs that I found laying around, as our exterminator came to school. These guys were laying around, and I just kind of picked them up and put them in tape. So here we go. We're going to weigh and measure some of these bugs. If the bugs freak you out, just print out some pictures of bugs. It's whatever you need to do and however you see fit. All right, so I'm going to show you how we did this. So we make sure that we're at our 0 as we are measuring these. All right, so I'm going to put this down here. Okay. So I'm going to pull my cricket over here. I'm going to pull a cricket over here, and I'm going to put the cricket down. And we're going to measure how long this cricket is from the tip of his feet all the way up to the top of him. He is 1 inch in length. All right, so 1 inch in length, 1/4 of an inch in width. He's 1/4 of an inch wide, and his height is 1/4 of an inch. So he is 1 by 1/4 by 1/4 of an inch. So very small. And we're going to put him on our scale. See if we can get a reading on my scale. He is not even reading, like he's barely showing up a gram. So like a half of a gram is what this little guy weighs. That's what I said, you're going to need something very lightweight. All All right, let's pull over the scorpion because scorpion's kind of cool to see. And we're going to measure and weigh our scorpion, all right, from our tip down here all the way to the tip of his tail, that little point right there. That's 2 inches. He is 2 inches in his length. His width from claw to claw there is about an inch. Back here at his legs, he is an inch wide. So he's 2 inches long, 2 inches wide. How thick is he? It's very hard to read that, but he is 2/16 of an inch in his thickness. All right, now let's put him on our scale. And he weighs 1 gram. 1 gram is what that guy weighs. So, like I said, you're just going to weigh and measure all kinds of different bugs because we've got to know how big these guys are. If we're putting a lot of these in a space and we're taking them up into space, we've got to know how many we can fit in our area. We have certain sizes for our Nano Labs, and we've got to know which ones are more beneficial, and we need to know how quickly they grow, what they need to grow. So our next investigation station after our weight and measurement is an insect research station where you're going to be going online. You're going to be reading passages about these bugs, and you're going to find out which ones are edible, which ones are delicacies throughout the world, and then which ones would be easy to grow in space. I'm leaning more towards mealworms, and they actually use mealworms as protein powder. If you don't know that, if you do protein shakes, you better check what it is, because sometimes it's mealworms. Sometimes in your protein shakes, it's made of mealworms or cricket powder, because they are so high in protein. So I'm focusing more on mealworms and crickets with my students. So weigh and measure crickets, see how many you can fit in an area. Weigh and measure mealworms, see how many you can fit in an area, and see how long they can live. Just do some research on those insects and figure out which ones we need for space. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. I hope you guys have fun with this station. I will see you at our next investigation station, our insect research station. All right, bye.